And what you're going to be waiting for is the status to go available. So you'll initially see it being in a creation status, and then it's going to do a backup of the initial created database, and then eventually it'll go to green. And like I said before, that time frame is going to be variable. It took about 5 minutes for this to occur for me, but your mileage may vary. It depends on how much activity is going on AWS, so this can be quite a variance for you. And we are running on a micro instance, and we can see that the key thing that we want to be looking at, so here's the endpoint. This is the URL that we're going to be using to access the database. So that is a DNS resolvable name that runs on Amazon AWS.com at port 3306. And it's saying that we're authorized. And if I hover over the information, what that's saying is that we have a security group, and it's looking at my IP address that's currently assigned by my ISP to allow that traffic into it. So that's an important tidbit. If your IP happens to change, or you start this course in one spot, like in a coffee shop or something, then go someplace else, you're going to have to adjust your security group rules on that. So it is going to restrict access to the IP that you're currently at. Now you can open that up to the world. If you're doing a production database, not necessarily a good idea to allow the world to come into your MySQL database, but this is kind of a standard security feature of MySQL to restrict traffic access to that database. Now what we want to do from here is we want to go in and configure our Spring Boot application. So I'm going to toggle over to IntelliJ, and what I'm going to do is create a new application.properties file, and I'm going to call it RDS MySQL.properties. I'm going to add that to Git so you guys can have that later, and I'm going to do a control copy on this. You don't necessarily want to be controlling copying everything, but for our purposes, MySQL RDS. And this is the values that we want to be changing here. So let's toggle back over to Chrome. And we want to copy, come back over here and paste that in, and say paste. And we don't want double ports in there. So this is setting up the JDBC URL for MySQL to connect to that on port 3306. And now the QA2 is going to be wrong. And what we need to do is we can come in here to the properties, and remember how we set the database name to Spring Guru DB? So I'm going to copy that over and give it that. So that's an important database setting. And now we did Spring and password, and you can see I'm knocking out the encoding, the encryption there. Now if I come in, we can actually do a little test here. I'm going to edit configurations, and I want to do the Spring Boot. And instead of QA2, remember how we called it RDS-MySQL, so we're going to do that. And by changing the active profile, we can test it right from our desktop. Remember how I said we opened up the IP for that, and we can test that. So let's see if this can connect now. And I also have the Spring Hibernate DDL set to update, so that when it connects, we're going to create all the database tables based on our JPA mappings. And we ran into a problem. Spring profile message. So it does not like our name here. And I'm honestly not sure if we can do dashes in the profile name. So I'm going to refactor this real quick. So what that's telling me is that because it could not find that, it seems like it did not find our message at all. So I'm going to refactor this real quick and get rid of that dash. So now we'll have just application RDS MySQL. And now we'll also have to go in and edit our configurations and get rid of that dash 2 and setting that to profile. Something we can do right inside of IntelliJ. Say OK, and I'm going to run this again. We failed again. Let's take a quicker look. Could not resolve placeholders. Same message. And taking a closer look at this, so it failed again. And when you're troubleshooting profiles, one thing you can always scroll up to is the top of the stack trace, or the logging. And you can see the following profiles are active, and it looks like I fat fingered the profile name. So let's go in and fix that. Edit configurations, and it's my SQL, not my QL. So I'm going to go ahead and say apply that, and let's see if this runs now. You can see it said RDS MySQL this time. So we can see the scheme updates went by okay. We got the appropriate message, and we are up and running. Now we got an unexpected failure. Oh, and I failed on 8080, and that is my fault because I have something else running on my machine on port 8080. So I'm going to pause this real quick and go figure out what I have running. Okay, fast forward a little bit there and found what else I had running. Not uncommon for me to be in and out of multiple dev projects in a single day, and I happened to leave a Tomcat instance running elsewhere. And I had to shut that down, so there's not a port conflict. And this application started up normally because it was able to access port 8080. Now we can come over into Chrome, and really nothing to see here because we're not changing anything that's visible on the RDS console. But to prove that things are running, I can go in, get to the right port, and our application is now running against an RDS database on Amazon AWS. Okay, you can see how